Hey guys, Santoli here, and we're here with Joey, who managed to get top 8 at YCS Mexico City, playing the FiendSmith Ryzeal Vishal deck that me and him worked on. I kind of sent him a template, and then he switched up a few things going forward. So here's him to talk about his list that he played.
Yeah, what's up, Santoli? Santoli and I are obviously super close. We stay at events, but he didn't go to Mexico, so he kind of sent me a deck he was working on, which usually he knows anything he sends me, I'm gonna take with a grain of salt because it's him. But I actually thought this deck was pretty good. So a few shout outs. Santoli and the Council, obviously. NB's everyone I stay with. Enzo, who top eighted too. I thought in top eight, one of us had a really good chance of winning. And then Giordano Pacaditya, shout out my duo, Jordy, for holding down for me at home. All the other Americans who went. Guillermo for showing us the city. And everyone I just played and met in Mexico. It was honestly a pleasure. Everyone was super nice, and the food was great. And also shout out to the winner. He actually beat me twice at that tournament, unfortunately. So, Renee. Okay, yeah. So for the deck, um, like I said, why we decided to play it, it's kind of like the FiendSmith Bestial deck that they were playing kind of at Orlando last format, where it's just a bunch of hand traps. You play a really long grind game, and you should get there. Every game you kind of have a chance to win. Excuse me. But Santoli sent me the deck with the Ryzeals, and I instantly liked it because I kind of played pure Ryzeal a lot last format. I've never played the Ryzeal Feedsmith deck, but I like the Ryzeal cards because it gives you potential to win instantly in a blowout if you draw multiple engines in the deck. Like if you draw one of the engine, like say you draw just the Ryzeal cards, you can definitely obviously still win there. Or say you draw just the Fiendsmith cards, or just Lubellion or stuff. Like you can definitely still win there, but it might just take a while. But if you draw two engines, the deck is really strong. But if you draw like three engines, like Ice or X plus Engraver plus Track, Engraver slash Tracked, and then like Lubellion or Magnuma, the deck is just insane. Like just almost no deck can beat you in my opinion, especially if you're going first. So for the Bestials, as you can see, it's just three Lubellion and the Regained. Lubellion's kind of just like the go first card. It's not really that good going second, but like it just gives the deck more auto win potential when it goes first. And then the Bestials are not like the other Bestials are kind of like soft hand traps. The Baldrake, the Druis, and the Magnamut, they are solid still, but I wouldn't count them as actual interrupts by themselves. And then obviously Regained is good. Just honestly, just drawing Regained is really good if you're playing against like any type of Bestial or Fiendsmith deck in general. Like you don't even need to grab it off Regained; it's just so strong. And then for the Ryzeals, I just played just the seven Ryzeals. Originally in the deck, we didn't play Cross, but it helps you play around Nibiru, especially after we added the second duo, because you can just send that with X. And it's like a free attach. It's not a light or dark, so they can't B steal it. And kind of one of the issues I was kind of having was that uh, like duo was just kind of weak, or like say you drew just Ryzeal cards, you might go X sword. If and originally our mindset was okay, like we'll just make a detonator and then we'll search follow up for next turn, maybe go in the Fiendsmith package. But something I realized was it's kind of something from last format where if you have one Vader, one Imperm, if they start with any of those Ryzeal cards, especially if your hand is decent, you're just gonna hold the Imperm. So like if you don't even go for duo there, they're just gonna literally Imperm your detonator, and that's just not very good at all, in my opinion. So we kind of just added cross in my opinion, Note is still too much of a brick for us to play. Yeah, there would be some scenarios where I think it would come up, like if you're searching with duo. But in my opinion, like it doesn't matter how much a card comes up; it's how much a card comes up and would have won you a game that was unlosable otherwise, which is much more rare. That I just didn't feel like it was worth adding another brick in the deck because there's already like a few cards in the deck you don't want to draw. Like you don't want to draw Paradise, you don't really want to draw Cross. You don't really want to draw regain. So like just adding that in, I just didn't feel very good to me. And then for the Fiendsmith stuff, I just wanted to max out on the consistency. So just that's why there's three engraver, three tracked, the one lacrima obviously, because you actually pretty much never want to draw that card unless you only draw like if you can only draw one Fiendsmith card, no other engines, lacrima is good there. But typically you don't want to draw lacrima because you want to ideally use one of your normal summons on one of the Ryzeal monsters, and then just three engraver, three tracks. So like the deck is actually pretty consistent to be honest, because there's seven Ryzeal names, uh, for like seven or eight FiendSmith cards, depending on what you count on just trying to play the game, and then Bestial Lubellion grabbing Magnemite is also uh solid. So just going on to the non-engine, I think it's pretty standard. Ash, Valor, Imperm, Nib. Originally, Fualos wasn't in the deck; it was in the side deck. But I think that when you're playing cards like Bestial Lubellion that are really, really good going first, you need cards, especially against the crazy combo decks that are good going second. So, especially if you just draw something like Lubellion or just the Bestial engine as your only plays, having something like Fualos is actually very good there. And then, so just like just going second, right, with the Flawless, we have like 15 quote unquote like hard hand traps where if you draw just that card, it has the potential to stop your opponent. But then you have like four soft ones and like Bestials. Like if they draw just the FiendSmith engine and you just drew like a Druis Worm or a Ball Drake, like they'll still end on like Necroquip if they only draw that, or depending on what they do. But like if you draw it like Ball Drake paired with like Valor or something, it's really really good. And then just the 41st card, we played Crossout, or I played Crossout. So originally Crossout wasn't in the deck, but I noticed an issue with the deck was if we were playing just the Ryzeal engine, we before I put the second Duo Drive into the deck, uh, you could lose to Nibiru, right? Because you just go X send twins or whatever you want to send there. Special sword, make duo, search, ice thing. And if they have nib, they would nib you right there. So I was thinking, like Crossout would actually would be pretty good there if we don't draw the Fiendsmith engine. But I ended up cutting the card I had in the extra deck for that, for the duo, for the second duo, which was Kerrigan at the time. And I think it's correct because it's just another name you can send. It's a fire. It also allows your duo to have an additional material, and then you can also end on like a three detonator with cross as well. But I still saw the merits of cross out because I had been playing with it. Whereas it's a really good card, of course, going first, and then going second, it's honestly not bad as well because every deck is going to have like Imperm, Valor, Ash, Dib, whatever against you. And although it doesn't hit stuff like D Barrier or DDG, like you still have, depending on which one of those, right? Because we're playing three different engines in the deck, we could still kind of play with the other engine that it doesn't hit as hard. So, uh, and then for the extra deck, it's just the typical Fiendsmith stuff. The only thing that's different, or like worth talking about, I guess, like I was saying, was the second duo because it helps play around Nib. Uh, the It's just a super standard Fiendsmith extra deck, and the Bestials obviously need to play all those cards. Typhon is really good in a deck like this because it plays so many hand traps. And then the 15th card was the second Requiem because it does come up against the Bestial decks. Because if you only play one Requiem and they draw Bestial, your engine is just really really bad without the with just one Requiem in the deck. So actually, I think it was in top 32. I think he banished one of my Requiems, but I played the second one, and he even was like, "Oh, you played two?" I was like, "Yeah." It just comes up. But some of the other cards that I was thinking about playing over it was the first one was Karen Horgan. Santoli told me about it at Houston after they announced the balance. I was like, "Oh, how do we even deal with Dweller now with without Dweller? Like, how do we deal with Paradise?" He's like, "Oh, like we could use like some Karen Gorgon like redirected or whatever." Or I guess pure Ryzeal. I assume that's what it's for. Is they're playing Rafflesia and like Gravedigger's Trap Hole, the one that against the monster effects. So like, like they even have issues with Paradise. So that was my initial like quote unquote reason to do it. Like if I'm playing against Fiendsmith and they end on Caesar and the Trap, you could go like Karen Gorgon and then like Duo or Detonator. But it's really rare that you'll only draw the one Ryzeal engine first off, and then also you didn't stop them at all, so like that's also something that would be pretty rare. And then in addition, like I was saying earlier, it doesn't matter how often something comes up, it's how often something comes up and would win you the game when you would lose otherwise. And in my opinion, even in that exact very niche scenario, you could easily just lose to one Valor, one Imperm, or one Ash still. So I decided not to play. Another card I was thinking about that they used to typically play in this deck is Exciton Knight, because it's obviously a rank 4 light fiend, whatever, whatever. But in my opinion, like he's nice to send with X or like use with the Fiendsmith stuff, but usually you're going to be shuffling back that light fiend with Engraver, whether it's Exciton or Moon. So that's kind of a fake reason. But I thought that the games are summon the Exciton typically, it's like against like a Malice full board or like a Blue Eyes full board or something of that nature, where I don't think that, like, even if you blow up 8 cards against the Malice deck, you're probably still going to lose, in my opinion. It's just kind of like a fake card, like that seems like it's nice, but in my opinion, typically when decks get to that point where they have a full board and they let you Exciton, you're probably just going to lose anyways. And then another card I was thinking about was the second Desiree, just for the option with Paradise when you have like one Desiree on the field or one Desiree is used. Or it's just nice to have sometimes if you have to Paradise and then your engraver can't always shuffle back the one Desiree. It's nice to have there so like your sequence doesn't do anything. Like that came up once because my Desiree got nipped and then I wasn't able to keep shuffling it back, so my sequence pretty much didn't do anything. So that kind of sucked, but I still think the second Requiem is correct. And then probably, in my opinion, the card that has the best case for maybe making it in would be SP, just because that card quality is really good. Like you can easily go into a Necroquip, stuff like that. Like SP obviously is just a broken card. So and then the side deck is the same side deck I've pretty much been playing for the last few months. It's just a Lancia, Meows, because we put Fua back in the main deck. I could put Perilia back in because Perilia is actually not bad against, well, it's really good against pure Ryzeal and Mitsu, but against something like Memento or Mermail, it's not bad in my opinion. I think it's not, like depending on what their hand, of course. Like, of course, Memento could just draw a hand where it's not good at all, but I think that card is still pretty good, like, overall. And then something cool that you could do with this deck, actually, is when you're siding going second against kind of like a heavy combo deck, you can take out, assuming it's not a light or dark deck, you can take out all the Bestials and the Regained, and then you can take out the Crossout, which is 9 cards. And then you can swap in some combination of Perilia, Meows, Lancia, or Storm, depending on which one is better in the matchup. And then you still have your full Fiendsmith engine with which is still extremely consistent. You obviously have Moon, so you can try and go into Moon, but obviously you don't have the Beast. Like if you take out all the Bestials, then it won't come up as much. But you still have 7 Ryzeal names, 9 Fiendsmith cards or 8, depending on what you count. And obviously you also have the additional draws with those chummies, so like your deck is still very consistent. And then something that's funny now too is previously last format you would always leave in one full Los, especially if you're playing 3 crossout in your deck. But crossout's at 1 now, so I think leaving in one Fua for when you're one crossout when you go first is pretty omega bad. So you can just swap in the strikes for the Fuas. So yeah, the deck felt pretty good. Of course, like sometimes you'll just be playing a crazy grinding game if you draw 1 or 2 engines and they draw 1 or 2 engines. But I really like the Ryzeal cards because they just give you blowout potential, such as if you start Engraver, go track Lurie, summon Lacrima, send whatever, and then equip the Necroquip, like equip the Requiem, excuse me. And then if you have any Ryzeal name right there, Ice is obviously the best one. But even Sword or X, normal summon right there, it puts them in a really tough position because they probably can't ever interact with you with Valor there or Imperm because you can instantly make duo from what they see. They lose to what they see right there. But even if they hold it there, I would probably still just summon up Caesar and then, use special sword or whatever. And then you can go for duo, make them have to use something, or you can just make detonator, which in my opinion is also fine because you just have detonator Caesar. And then something that also came up when I would draw like 2 engravers or like tracked engraver or something, and you just go straight into Necroquip, and then you use engravier or Bestial Rebellion to draw a card, and either you draw another non-engine card. Worst case, you draw another Fiendsmith card or whatever engine you already have. But sometimes, like once or twice, I drew sword or ice there, which is just completely game as well. So I like the deck because it can win just with like the conventional, like the B Steel FiendSmith did last format, but the power level of all the decks is a lot lower now, so those games are even more winnable now. But if you draw some of the Ryzeal cards, your deck just seems so broken and so unbeatable. So yeah.
So the biggest question, I guess, for one of the viewers asking us, is how's this deck going in next format when Alan's coming up? And I think it's kind of important to talk about how this deck functions. So a lot of decks I feel are very they want a combo, and their half board decks they have a fallback, but their fallback isn't as good. I feel like this deck's plan B is super well, is super good. And that's why you just get into grind games a lot, and you're in favor of these grind games. Like if you open a Razor card, and let's say like Bishills or the Fiendsmith cards, maybe that's not the Razor cards, and then you just start grinding with Fiendsmith or the Bishil engine. And so you play these very long games because you just have multiple engines going on. You have multiple ways of top decking the other engine, and just you're pulling ahead that way. And so I think when the power level of the game's low, these deck functions really well because when you still have the power level in opening multiple engines, but the other thing is that you could just are able to draw these games out because decks aren't blowing you out. And so the problem is going into ALIN format is that we have a lot of better combo decks in the form of White Forest, Malice, Mitsu gets some more support, and they have a lot better chance of blowing you out. And so the game that this deck wants to play isn't quite as good or as played next set. That's not to say this deck is bad by any means, but I do think it falls down a little bit. Changes you can make as having more blowouts. I think something like Joel could be considered in the main. Um, you should still feel somewhat comfortable going first. You still have the ability to play through hand traps super effectively. But I think just dealing with the higher power level does make this deck a little bit lower on the tier list.
So kind of the way this deck played, I realized just playing the deck halfway through the format, like halfway through the tournament, was usually when you're playing the Feedsmith engine, you can decide whether you want Desiree or Caesar, typically. And I kind of realized that no matter what deck I'm playing against, my game plan should just be the same. Just summon Caesar, even though typically it never sticks on the board. But just don't want to burn your follow up, right? Because the format is like so back and forth. It doesn't really matter that if he cracks, because then you still have the Feedsmith engine as insurance. Like a lot of the time your lose con would be you shuffle back your follow up and then you don't draw engine for a turn or two, right? But I think going into ALIN, all the decks are so broken. Like the power level is just crazy, crazy high. So like you were saying, you have to play cards like Droll, which is okay this format. I would say it was just so diverse that I didn't really want to play a hand trap that could be a potential like -1 when we're playing and going back and forth for multiple turns at a time. Whereas because it would be something. It's not specifically you have to swap out Veil or Imperm for Droll or something like that. But a lot of the time, that would be the trade off when people are deciding to put cards like Droll in their deck. But say I summon like a Ryzeal monster, like we're playing some type of Fiends with Ryzeal Mirror. I summon a Ryzeal monster, you Droll me, you summon a Ryzeal monster, and I negate it. If we're going back and forth, I'm just gonna win that trade eventually, assuming we draw roughly the same. But yeah, I think that you could definitely use a few of these, and like I think the Fiendsmith or the Ryzeal stuff is definitely pretty good going into post ALIN from what I've seen. But the Bestial stuff might not be as good unless you're playing a deck like Ballas, maybe. Or so maybe you want to try incorporating in maybe Mitsu or whatever you want, or just like cut the Ryzeal cards and just play Malice. I'm not sure. So
Okay. So we'll see what happens next format, and how it shapes up to be. I think something like this, if it's a comfort pick for you, or the side you can enjoy, it's definitely playable by all means. But not quite, I think, the powerhouse that it was this format. Because I think this deck was very good call of the event. I feel like you also said that it felt very powerful going in. Um, so
yeah,
we'll
I
see
think
how
yeah,
Alan goes
I think
on.
Yeah, I think probably this deck was the only deck I might concede might have been a better pick is Memento, but that's not really a deck you can kind of pick up and play. I think for this YCS. So yeah, I played the winner twice, and we were just talking, and he was telling me it's similar to Pascal who on YCS Houston that he's just been playing the deck for 7 or 8 months, the Memento deck. So unless you actually knew how to play that deck, I don't think very many people could just pick that up and play it after a week or two. At least not well for the most part.
All right. Anyways, thanks for the profile, Joey, and until next time.
Yep.